Right, ladies and gentlemen, this is also on page 288. It's example number 2, and this is the second part of this lesson 54. Lesson 54, dividing fractions. Now, I am actually going to teach this a little bit different than they do in the book to make your lives so much easier. And Miss Coutura also teaches it this way when you get into algebra. It's just going to make your life a lot easier when you're dividing fractions by another fraction, okay? So the way that they teach it in the book on example number 2, if you want to do it that way, you can go ahead and read it. I think it's a little confusing for students your age. So I'm going to teach it a little different, and hopefully it'll make a whole lot more sense, and it'll be a lot easier. Again, everything I do is for a purpose, and I'm going to teach it a little bit different. All right, so this is example number 2. It says, how many halves are in 3/4? And then over in parentheses, it says 3/4 divided by 1/2. That's all they're doing, is they're taking 3/4, right? So they're taking 3/4 and they're dividing it by 1/2. Okay, now watch how easy this is. If you want to follow along in the book and do it that way, that's fine. But I'm going to teach you an easier way. Anytime we are dividing a fraction, right? 3/4 is a fraction, by another fraction, 1/2, all we have to do is we're going to keep the first fraction, we're going to flip the second fraction, and we're going to change the sign. Now, what do I mean? I'm going to keep this fraction, 3/4. I'm going to flip the second fraction. So right now it's 1/2. I'm going to make that 2/1, and I'm going to change the sign in the middle. So in other words, we were dividing. This time we are going to multiply instead. So all we have to do, I know you guys are really good at multiplying fractions, right? Because all we have to do is go straight across. 3 times 2. Let me use a different color. I shouldn't have used that color because I don't think it shows up very good. 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 1 is 4. So now we have 6/4, and that is a improper fraction, which you know you have to simplify. So how do we simplify 6/4? Well, the first thing we do is we want to find a common denominator for both of them. So what will both divide into 6 and 4? Well, we can divide 4 by 2, we get 2, and we can divide 6 by 2, we get 3. So 3/2. Now, if I asked you to give me that in a improper fraction form, and in this case, we want to keep it in a mixed number. So 3 divided by 2 is actually 1 1/2. I'm not going to go through that again because we did it in the last video, in last lesson, in lesson 53. So wasn't that a whole lot easier? If you want to go through and read it on page 287 through 289 and see how they did it, they did not do it this way. I think it's a whole lot easier. All we're going to do is keep the first fraction, flip the second fraction, and then multiply them both together, and then we simplify, and that's our final answer. Okay, hopefully that made sense. I'll do another one here in just a second so we can get a little bit more practice.